Penn State has two new quarterback targets for 2026. There is some quarterback questions over at Penn State, and we're going to kind of talk about that and kind of get that figured out today in this video. So, anyway, hope you guys are having a good day so far. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Hope everybody's enjoying the holiday season for all who celebrate. But point of this video is Penn State. And what are they going to do at quarterback for the 2026 season? Because you got a new head coach, you got a whole new offensive staff, and maybe they want to bring in their own guy. Maybe they want to keep the guy that looked pretty good down the stretch. So we'll get into the three candidates that I believe are in the mix here and kind of why. We're not going to go too in depth, but kind of give my thoughts and opinions on it. So, first one, Rocco Becht. So he's officially entered the transfer portal. I mentioned him in my last video, thinking that maybe he would follow Matt Campbell because, I mean, he's been with Matt Campbell his whole college career, and Matt Campbell brought over pretty much the entire offensive staff, which seems to be a good thing for Penn State because he's developed really good offensive players over in that offensive staff, and I think that once that offensive staff gets some more talent around them, like they'll be able to get at Penn State, because they weren't working with elite talent at Iowa State, but they were making them look like very good talent. So give him more resources at Penn State, and I think this is a very good offensive squad that he's brought in. It would shock me if Rocco Becht didn't follow. I think there's a reason that Rocco Becht entered the portal, and I think that that reason is probably to follow Matt Campbell and the offensive staff that he's played with these past few years. Matt Campbell's good at retaining his staff, so Rocco Becht has played with this same exact offensive staff for a while now. He has 1 year left, so I think Penn State will bring him in for 1 year. I think that you'll see him elevate his game at Penn State, to be honest, because he's going to have guys like Kobe Howard if you're able to keep him. He's going to have some other very good receivers because Matt Campbell's offense and our new receivers coach that Penn State had brought in, they're elite at developing receivers and, like I said, just overall offense. They run a good offensive system that Rocco Becht fits in, and he knows this offense better than anybody else for obvious reasons because he's played in it for a long time. I think you can bring him into Penn State and he'll make an immediate impact. And like I said, he's going to have probably the best talent-wise receivers that he's ever gotten to throw to. Yeah, you had Jaden Higgins and some other guys at Iowa State, but that was development. And now you have four stars, borderline 1 5-star receiver, borderline. I'm not saying he was a 5-star, but he was borderline 5-star, and Kobe Howard, that you're going to be able to, you're going to be throwing to him this year. So I think you'll be able to develop him at a very high level, and I think Rocco Becht I think he could thrive in this offense. I really do think he can. I know a lot of Penn State fans might be skeptical of it because they really like the guy that Penn State currently has. And I do too. I do too. And we'll get into that later. But I think Rocco Becht wouldn't be a bad option. I'm not saying it would be a bad option whatsoever. And it seems like that's the likely option at this point. But who knows? Who knows what Matt Campbell does? Maybe he just brings him in for competition. I mean, we know Rocco Becht's probably going to be the starter if he comes in. But I'll get to that point in a minute. Anyways, I think Rocco Becht could be very solid in this Penn State offense. Now the next one, you might know him. You might know him already. That's Beau Pribula. So Beau Pribula came in with Drew Aller. They brought in two quarterbacks in that class, if you remember. They brought in a pocket passer in Drew Aller. They brought in a mobile quarterback in Beau Pribula. A lot of talk around Beau Pribula when he got to Penn State was this kid's going to be the next Trace McSorley. Well, now you have Trace McSorley on the staff because Matt Campbell did retain Trace McSorley on the staff. I don't know exactly what his role is, but it's definitely something with quarterbacks. I think it would be interesting to see those mesh, like those two mesh, because Beau Pribula, like I said, in high school, his high school tape and even his college tape looked like, hey, this could be Penn State's next Trace McSorley, play style wise. And now you have Trace McSorley possibly coaching him if Beau Pribula decides to come back. Now, there are three teams that I've heard have interest in Beau Pribula. Three main teams to watch for. That is Penn State, that is Virginia Tech, which for obvious reasons, because James Franklin was the one that helped recruit Beau Pribula and wanted him in. and Washington State, which Washington State has a pretty good resume as of late of developing quarterbacks and putting them in good spots. Although they do have a complete new staff now, so that'll be interesting to see what Pribula does there. I'm not sure what his market looks like, but I've heard Penn State's interested. I've heard Penn State's made an offer. I don't know if that's true. I think if it came down to it, Beau Pribula would come back to Penn State. He's from Pennsylvania, so he can come back home again. He's I look at it this way. He played in the SEC this past year. They played a tough schedule. He dealt with some injuries, but he looked pretty good. If you look at his touchdown to interception ratio, you might say otherwise, but the eye test looked pretty good. He made some mistakes, but I mean, it was his first year starting. And like I said, they played a pretty brutal SEC schedule. I think if you put them in the Big Ten, Penn State's schedule is not that. It's not tough next year. Like Penn State has a relatively easy schedule next year. I think Beau Pribula could really, really do some damage against the schedule next year and help this Penn State team win a lot of football games. That's my opinion. Because you're not really so one-dimensional. Beau Pribula can use his legs. We all know that. He could throw the ball around. I think he would. I think he would be a good fit in the Big Ten. I still think he should come back to the Big Ten. I think he would do very good at Penn State. It's just Penn State does how much interest do they have in bringing Beau Pribula back, especially if you're Matt Campbell, because you already have Rocco Becht. You've coached Rocco Becht. You've had Rocco Becht as your quarterback the past several years, like I've mentioned. And then you have Ethan Grunkemeyer, a guy who I'm sure Matt Campbell has watched the tape on him. I'm sure Matt Campbell has watched a lot of Ethan Grunkemeyer, and I'm sure there's interest there because Ethan Grunkemeyer showed a lot of potential down the stretch, which we'll get into in a minute. Again, like I said, I mean, rumors were when Penn State landed Beau Pribula, seemed like Pribula's dream school was Penn State all along. I mean, growing up a Pennsylvania kid, you probably have a lot of connections to Penn State. You probably grew up watching Penn State. You probably grew up cheering for Penn State. Would it shock me if he came back? Especially if this offer that I'm hearing about is real. I don't know if it's real. But if this offer that I'm hearing about is real, it'd shock me if he didn't come back. Again, I don't know if it's real. It doesn't sound like the number that I'm hearing doesn't sound like it's like Beau Pribula type, so I don't know how true it is, but I've heard there's an offer. But that's my thoughts on Beau Pribula. Now the next one is Ethan Grunkemeyer, and this is the last one, by the way. So we all know about Ethan Grunkemeyer. He played half a season after Drew Aller went out for an injury. I'd say this Penn State team looked a lot better under Ethan Grunkemeyer than they did with Drew Aller. I think Ethan Grunkemeyer, he's a guy who when Andy Koldnicki called plays to Ethan Grunkmeyer's strengths, we saw a lot of flashes of potential. He has a good deep ball. I don't know, he fits Penn State. I think he fits Penn State in general. I really couldn't see him anywhere else, but there are some questions as to whether he will enter the transfer portal, especially if you bring in a Rocco Becht or Beau Pribula. Both of those guys having only 1 year left. So my question is, if you do bring in Rocco Becht or Beau Pribula, will Ethan Grunkemeyer be will he be willing to sit and learn 1 more year? Although he did play last year and we saw him look good, we saw him win a lot of football games actually. Will he be willing to sit and learn 1 more year with a new offense that can obviously develop quarterbacks at a higher level than what he previously had? And I think Penn State fans will know that under a new head coach, under really two veteran quarterbacks that you could sit and learn from again because he's still a freshman. Ethan Grunkemeyer, I believe he's a redshirt freshman going into his redshirt sophomore year. You have plenty of time. And if you do sit behind one of these guys, I'd like to say your chances at starting after in 2027 are very high. I'd say they're very high. So I think it would do Ethan Grunkemeyer good things. And if Rocco Becht comes in and don't turn out, or if Beau Pribula comes in and they're not playing good, you could always have a reliable backup right there because we've seen Ethan Grunkemeyer come in and win games. Now, the reason that I think he might not stay is number one, he's another guy, came in with James Franklin. I wonder if he would enter the transfer portal and have some interest in Virginia Tech. Seems like he likes Penn State, but he did get interviewed last week, I believe. Spoke to the media, and they asked him. They asked him about, is he going to stay or is he going to go? He said no decisions have been made yet, so that's something interesting. So that means he's not 100% in on Penn State, or at least it sounds. But I would, I don't know. I would be kind of shocked if he did leave, unless he thinks he can go somewhere and play right now. I don't know how big his market would be, but I do think Virginia Tech would have some interest there. You know, if a lot of teams did watch Ethan down the stretch, I think he would have a pretty good market because, like I said, there was a lot of potential there. Will, will he stay or will he go? That's the big question. I think if Ethan Grunkemeyer sat one more year, and I'm not even against him playing, if Ethan Grunkemeyer is a starter next year, I think you're going to win a lot of games. I think Matt Campbell and his staff can develop Ethan Grunkemeyer to be a very, very good quarterback. He's shown probably the most potential that I've seen from a Penn State quarterback in a long time. And I don't think that's a stretch. I think some Penn State fans would agree with me. I'm not saying he's elite yet. Do I think he could be? I can't even lie. I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance he could be a very good quarterback in college football, especially under this new staff that develops offense at a high level, like I've talked about. So that's very interesting. I think it would be. I think Ethan Grunkemeyer would really benefit from either from staying in general, because either one, you're going to sit for one more year, learn the new offense behind a guy who's played in this off. I'm assuming Rocco Becht is going to transfer. You're going to sit and learn behind a guy that's played in this offense for like 4 to 5 years now, or no, 3 to 4 years now. That would benefit you. You're going to be throwing to elite wide receivers that you probably wouldn't be throwing to at Virginia Tech. Not going to lie. I think I think Ethan Grunkemeyer could turn into a very good quarterback if he stayed at Penn State. Now that's just my thoughts and opinions. So that's it for this video. If you did enjoy this video, and if you are a Penn State fan, thank you so much. You've showed me a lot of support on the last quarterback video that I uploaded for Penn State. So if you did enjoy this, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. A lot of Penn State content coming, a lot of it. We're going to break down the entire staff that Matt Campbell has brought in a video going up this week. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, have a good holiday season for all who celebrate. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.